The traditional education system is failing our kids, not because we lack good intentions, but because we've forgotten the most powerful force in any school building. That force is hope. Every day, there are students who walk into our schools carrying invisible baggage, feeling unseen and unheard, while the adults get trapped in compliance culture, data obsessions, and bureaucratic busy work that pulls us away from the human element. What matters most? The heartbeat of our schools. The stakes couldn't be higher. When leaders lose sight of hope, entire communities suffer. Students don't just fail academically, they lose faith in themselves, in their futures, and in the adults who are supposed to believe in them. But what if there was a systematic way to lead with hope? What if we could create schools where every voice matters, where we focus on strengths, and where we build and bring our best in everybody through collaboration, encouragement, and most importantly, hope? I'm Danny Bauer, and this is Better Leaders, Better Schools, the original Ruckus cast for visionary leaders who want to do school different, reimagine the education experience within a traditional system so that they create something worth showing up for. Thanks to Ruckus Makers just like you, this show ranks in the top 1% of nearly 4 million podcasts at this point. So thank you for tuning in and pressing play. We'll be back after a quick message from our show sponsors with today's regular content. Looking to create the kind of campus experience students never forget? ODP Business Solutions transforms ordinary spaces into extraordinary learning environments. Visit odpbusiness.com/education and let's do school different. That's odpbusiness.com/education. This episode is brought to you by Play Piper. Teachers know that keeping students engaged in STEM can be really tough, and Piper is here to help. Our award-winning STEM kits make science and engineering hands-on, playful, and fun, so students build confidence while building real-world skills. Join educators around the country who are using Piper to inspire future creators. Visit playpiper.com to learn more. That's playpiper.com. If you could differentiate instruction in 20 minutes or less, would you do it for all your students? Well, you can with IXL. Over 1 million teachers use IXL because it empowers them to use effective data-informed instruction. And you can get started today at ixl.com/leaders. That's ixl.com/leaders. All right, and Brandi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Danny. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. I'm excited to have you. You have a message of hope. That's something that is desperately needed in our schools today. And we'll get into digging into, your message in a second. But I want to start us off with a story of a former student, Addison. And you were telling me that traditional school just didn't work for her. So can you tell that story?
Yeah. So, I tell this story in my book, Danny. Addison was a student that I had when I was the principal at the school that I grew up in. So I was able to lead my grade school as a principal, and I met Addison. And she was a sweet kid. She had a heart of gold, but she also had a legendary temper. And traditional school did not work for her. So you can imagine with that legendary temper what that looked like. Nonetheless, she spent a lot of time in my office, and we got to know each other very, very well. And there were many instances where I think Addison just didn't feel like she belonged. She didn't feel like people got her, wasn't able to find her people. And we tried so many things, so many interventions that were supposed to work, proactive, reactive, traditional discipline, restorative practices, so many things with Addison, and it just didn't work. And so she and her mom and I sat down one day, and we just decided that she needed a new start. She needed a clean slate. where she could kind of have a do-over. And she ended up going to an alternative school. And when she went there, at first she was a little bit reluctant, but she decided that she'd give it a try. And when she went there, she found her people. She was able to connect. She felt a sense of belonging. People accepted her for who she was, and she began to thrive. I believe she found her purpose, definitely found her people. And even though traditional school didn't work for her, she had greatness within. And whenever she got that do over, she was able to really shine in that new setting.
Yeah. It's interesting, how a change of setting like that, and you said finding your people, can really, I guess, nurture a person or be that catalyst that they need. Because you said she had greatness inside her. What
Yep.
was it about Addison that you saw what her potential, right? That maybe a traditional school leader, what I might call a play it safe principal, they might miss, but you saw something.
Yeah, the thing that I saw in her was that spunk, that spark. She was kind, she was generous. She would do anything for anybody, but oftentimes we serve as a mirror sometimes for people. And if you speak that greatness that you believe in them, they can see that in themselves. But if you don't, if you only point out the weaknesses, that is basically what that's who they become. That's what drives them and creates the person that they become. So for Addison, she needed that. She needed that mirror where people believed in her and she could see that. And
Yep.
I did. I believed in her. And it was just the spark. It was the spunk. It was the kindness that she always offered. There was one time she came into my office and I had to step out for some reason, and she picked up my phone, and I came back and she never said a word, but I came back and I had about 50 pictures on my phone of her just being silly and fun. And it brings me so much joy. I've kept some of those pictures on my phone just to remind me of how amazing she was, and just that kindness and that generosity.
Yeah, that's an interesting story, about her. I'm sorry if I missed. Did you say what age or what grade level?
Yeah, she was in junior high. So whenever I got to know her, she was right around seventh grade. And I think
Yeah.
seventh grade is hard for a lot of our kids. Seventh
Yeah.
grade, I was one of those weird people that loved middle schoolers.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I first became a counselor at a middle school, there was a principal that I worked with, and he said, I'm going to ask you to come to my school, but I'm going to warn you. You become like the kids you teach. And so I wasn't sure, honestly, but whenever I went to that school and I started counseling those kids, I love middle school. That's one of my favorite age groups now. And I think it's because they're at a fork in the road and they're trying to figure out who they are. And as
Yeah.
educators, we have that huge responsibility, but it's also a gift of helping them find their way.
100%. My experience is all sixth grade, teaching, and then freshman, sophomore, and seniors I had. So I did in middle school only sixth grade, although I coached eighth grade basketball,
Mhm.
and seventh grade, and then like high school teaching experience. But yeah, seventh grade is where they lose their minds. They're a bunch
What?
of weirdos. It is that fork in the road, right? Because the
Oh,
sixth grade they're still kind of needy, in the elementary, and then eighth grade,
uh-huh.
they want to be the kings and queens of the campus, and then moving on to high
Absolutely.
school. And seventh grade is just like in the middle. So yeah, fun group. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I was curious about the age and the grade level because I know how impactful, like, kind of the thoughts and the things that we say to ourselves in an inner dialogue, like how powerful that can be, and almost like predict your success or failure.
Yep.
And as that's developing in a child, the messages you're receiving from adults that should care for you, right? At times they can say stuff that really might derail a student. So to have a caring adult on campus that sees the spark, that sees what the kid has to offer is so important, because that can become sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy at times. And so yeah, I just want to note that for the ruckus maker listening or watching, because It's just it's so important. I don't think we pay enough attention to those messages that we
No.
give students. And then there's the whole like sort of body language and like the
Mhm.
presence you have and the energy that you bring to the classroom also that impacts. So,
Absolutely. And
um,
there's so much to unpack with what you just said, Danny,
mhm,
but when you think about everything as human beings that we bring to the table, the complexities, the baggage, the trauma, all of that, our kids are carrying that too, and it's
mhm,
oftentimes invisible. We can't see what they're carrying, and
mhm,
our body language, our words, so many things can be triggering. It's so easy to be kind, you know?
yeah,
We can
yeah,
always offer that word of encouragement. We can always reframe things into opportunities and help them to see a way forward, give them hope whenever maybe they don't see hope because of some of the baggage that they're carrying. But as
mm.
educators, let's be honest, we carry a lot of that same baggage.
Oh
And
yeah,
sometimes our kids can trigger that for us too. So self-awareness is huge in being able to understand who we are so we can
mm,
bring out the best in others in this journey that we call life.
yeah, right on. Well, let's talk about the brand and the book a bit. I know you got a podcast too, so they're all around this, this hope
Yep,
idea. But the Lead with Hope, book that's out, it's available. Check it out, Ruckus Makers. We'll link it up in the show notes. I think that stands for habits, optimism, passion, purpose, perseverance, and excellence. Did I get that right?
that's
Did I
right.
miss
It's optimistic outlook, which is more of a
optimistic
mindset
outlook?
piece.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
it's a positive mindset piece. Yeah.
right on. So, yeah, talk to us about that framework in the book.
Yeah. So the Hope system has come out of my book, Lead with Hope, and it released in May of 2025. Very exciting. But I can't talk about my book without talking about my origin story, which came from my brother, Brandon.
Mm,
Brandon and I were just 2 years apart growing up. And in my family of origin, it was me, my brother, Brandon, and then our youngest brother, Dustin. And
mm,
on a rainy Saturday afternoon, they went on a horseback ride and Brandon drowned.
mm,
And that trauma is really why Lead with Hope came to be in existence. And it wasn't necessarily because of the pain out of that trauma, it was more so because of the hope that I saw despite the trauma. It was because of the community, the people that showed up for us in that time of sorrow and despair and loss. And
mm,
it's just remarkable, Danny, what people can do for other people in that community. They searched for him day and night. We searched for him on Saturday, Sunday, which was Mother's Day, and then finally found him on Monday afternoon. His classmates, they now call themselves the 95ers, and that trauma has bonded that class. But they created a memory book capturing his mischievous spirit, which is probably why I'm drawn to the ornery, at risk student, because Brandon more than likely had undiagnosed ADHD, but they created so many beautiful stories that I still have today and I cherish. But through that, I have discovered that my purpose was to help other people. And at first, I thought it
mm,
was because I was to be an educator. I went into education. I became a school social worker. I did that for 10 years. And then I was a school leader for 10 years, a principal. And for the last 3 years, I was a superintendent. But at some point along the journey, as I was climbing the ranks in this system that you and I have talked about before, the bureaucracy, the traditional system that we want to see done differently, I think I lost my way, to be honest with you. I
mm,
think that I got stuck in the political pressures and the rules and the regulations and the compliance culture. And
mhm,
and I hit a wall. Just this last spring, I hit a wall. And that's why I decided to reimagine what this looks like, what helping people looks like. And I launched Spark Hope EDU, where I'm super excited about the opportunities that lay before me in coaching and speaking and writing and just helping leaders, as you say, do school differently. I would
mm,
say lead with hope. And for me, lead with hope means assessing, looking at personality typologies, values assessments, getting to know who you are, your blind spots, your motivations, what makes you tick, and then envisioning a life that you love. We get this one life. You know, my brother Brandon drowned when he was 13. I want people to envision a life that they love and then go
Mm.
after it and really put that vision into practice so that they can thrive in their life and their leadership. And so, through coaching cohorts, through speaking, through writing, through all of those channels, I'm going to be helping leaders and just maximize their potential.
Right. You mentioned possibly losing your way or just getting caught up in the bureaucracy and stuff. Was there a moment, or was there like an indicator that was that sort of signal? Okay, I need
Yep.
to reimagine
Yep.
what this is all about.
Yeah, and it was when I was writing my book. I was in the editing phases, and it's kind of like on your car, you know, you get that yellow light, and it's
Hmm.
your red flag, if you will. First it's the yellow, and then it's the red. You know, attention, attention. I started getting those signals in my body. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was trying to do too much for too many people. I had forgotten the importance of community and asking for help because I was in a new district, in a new community, and even though I had coaching, and I think coaching is essential, it's a necessity that
Hmm.
all leaders should have, I wasn't reaching out beyond the coach. I was kind of trying to do it alone, and you can't. There's no way that
Hmm.
you can do it
Hmm.
alone. You need community. And writing and editing the book reminded me the importance of community and connection and just really getting clear on what it is that you want out of life and then just going after it, having the courage to go after it.
If you could do it again, would you change anything?
Probably not, Danny, because I
Yeah.
believe that all of our experiences happen for a reason. It shapes us into the person that we become. The only thing that I would say I wish I could have done a little bit differently, just enjoying the journey a little bit more. I
Mm.
value every person that God placed in my life along the way, but I wish I would have spent more time and enjoyed the people that were in my life instead of being so focused on the tasks and the rules and like I said before, that compliance piece of it. We're in the people business. We're in the relationship
Mhm.
business. And as leaders, it is so easy to lose sight of that. That is something I wish I would have done better along the way.
I hear you on that. Yeah, the temptation, and I think the system kind of has this pull to want to quantify everything so we can see if we're, successful or failing, and reduces humanity to a number when it's
Mhm.
so much more
Yeah.
complex than that, right? And it's not as easy, as a business, like a profit and loss sort of statement. And yet, we might try to run things that way at times, and miss out on the humanity. So, yeah,
Well, and I
shame.
think
It's a shame.
there's a reason, Danny. I mean, people would ask me, how do I recharge myself when I was a principal in a building?
Hmm.
And I always went to the lunchroom.
Well, just to clarify, so like people would ask you how you as a principal would
Yes.
recharge, or they would ask
Yes.
you as principal, how do I as a teacher recharge?
Yeah. No, so as a principal,
Yeah,
people would ask me, how do you, Brandy, as a principal,
recharge.
reconnect and recharge
Got it.
yourself when things are
Got it.
stressful?
Hmm.
And it was going to the lunchroom.
Hmm.
I enjoyed going to the lunchroom, just having conversations with kids. That buzz, do you remember that buzz in the lunchroom that you felt?
Yes.
Just the noise and the energy
Of
and the
course.
excitement. That recharged me, and it's because that's the heart of the school. The kids are the heart of the school. They're the reason that we're there, and reconnecting with them always recharged me. And I think the higher I went up the ranks in that superintendent role, I was more disconnected from the kids than ever.
Sure. Yeah. So that's good advice for the ruckus maker, right? Like, and here's the thing: there's going to be ups and downs. So I think a definition of school leadership where there's no downs or no times where it's stressful and hard, or you're like questioning, if that's within your definition of what leadership is like, you're going to be disappointed. So when you hit the hard point, it's like, oh, you were living in a Disney World version of being a principal. So, have a candid definition of what the experience is like, and then follow advice, wise advice that Brandi just gave. Get connected back to the heartbeat, right? The reason we
Yeah.
exist, and that's for the students. So, yeah, I get you there. I was in there karaoke, right? Arm wrestling with students.
Yeah.
Sad because as a principal, found out that my campus first principal to sit down with students and have a meal, right?
Wow.
Uh, and they scattered like cockroaches when you turn on a
What?
light, right? Bringing you back to my college days. But
Mhm.
anyways, I was like, what's going on? Right. And they told me, well, prior to you, Mr. Bauer, if we ever saw the principal, it was only to
Yeah.
get suspended. We're scared. So,
Yeah.
well, things are changing. I care about who you are. I want to know your hopes, dreams, and aspirations,
Yep.
your fears and that kind of stuff too. But we're here for you. And yeah, you're going to get consequences from me if you deserve it. But if I want to come just have lunch, we're just having lunch as normal people. So,
Yeah.
and my favorite day, and then I'll shut up, nacho day, where I got to have the opportunity to serve, because I asked Lori, right, the cafeteria manager, what's the most popular day? She said, nacho day, Danny. It's like,
Mhm.
great, I'm on. Let me serve. So put on the hairnet, the gloves, and she puts me, Brandi, on the vegetable station, right?
Oh no.
Lori, do kids want vegetables on nacho day? No, Mr. Bauer, they skipped that part. Put me on the nachos then. I've worked in restaurants, like I can handle it. If she couldn't believe it, the kids like had a huge laugh,
That's
but
too late.
that was energizing. It was work, but it was energizing. So
Yep.
I
It
hear what you're
is.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about the kids saying that when I was at a middle school, I was a principal at a middle school, and I went into the lunchroom, into the teachers' lunchroom, into the teachers'
Hmm.
lounge
Hmm.
one day, and I had lunch with the teachers. And I had a teacher say the same thing to me. He said he had been in that school district for over 10 years, and he said, I've never had a principal eat lunch with me before. And
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But at the core, we're all just people. It doesn't
Yes.
matter your title or your role. And I think if we could get back to that and we could support one another no matter what, no matter whether
Mm.
you were a student or a teacher or a paraprofessional or a bus driver or a principal or a superintendent, we're so much better together. But we let those labels hinder us. They really just get in the way sometimes.
Well, the other thing too is like when you do the intangibles, sitting at the with the teacher in their lounge with the students, main office staff, custodial staff, sharing homemade tamales, which was
Oh,
awesome.
you-
Like just those little things and showing interest in their families and et cetera and who they are as people,
Mhm.
they're going to want to give so much more to the campus because you took the time to see them as people. And if you're just caught up in the to-do list, right? And all the things that, yeah, operationally need to get done, you're totally missing the point. So, and I think you said, we get this one opportunity to get it right. And it's
Yep.
like, don't go through life on autopilot with
No.
just this gigantic to-do list of things. You're going to get
Yeah.
it done. And then what? Like,
Exactly.
it just
Exactly,
doesn't.
and then you lose sight. There's no
Hmm.
joy in the journey, and
Hmm.
the higher I climbed the ranks, that's what I was getting more and more disconnected from,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I say my lessons are hard fought, but I've
Mm.
learned the lessons and now I'm ready to teach them to the leaders that are making the difference now in their schools. And that's what Lead with Hope is all about. It's one story after the other. And sometimes it's about the imposter syndrome that I felt when I was a
Sure.
principal just starting out, or about students that I worked with and I held hope for them until they could hold hope for themselves. But it's through this system of hope that we can be better. And it all starts with that connection and that community.
Right on. Well, Brandy, I'm enjoying our conversation. We're going to pause here just for a moment and we'll hear from our sponsors when we get back. I would love to hear more about your hope cycle. ODP Business Solutions, formerly Office Depot Business Solutions Division, has been a trusted partner for schools for 30 years. At ODP Business Solutions, we're by your side to meet your evolving education needs. Now, picture this: a learning environment so engaging students forget to check their phones. Sounds impossible? That's exactly what we helped Belago Academy create. Their secret? Working with ODP Business Solutions to build collaborative spaces that actually work. We didn't just deliver furniture, we delivered a completely new way of learning. From tech integration that makes lessons come alive, to flexible spaces that adapt to any teaching style, to sustainable solutions that reduce your carbon footprint. We're here to help you do school different. And the best part, you get it all from a single supplier. All to help you simplify ordering and streamline budgeting while staying compliant with easy access to cooperative contracts. However you want to advance, ODP Business Solutions has 30 years of experience helping districts like yours get ahead. Visit odpbusiness.com/education to learn more. That's odpbusiness.com/education. Tomorrow's innovators are sitting in today's classrooms, but only if we help them see what's possible. At Play Piper, we make STEM hands-on and approachable through kits that connect kids' natural curiosity with real skills in coding and engineering. Students who once thought, I'm not good at science, begin to discover their own potential. It's about repairing the pipeline and fueling the next generation of creators. To learn how you can inspire future innovators in your school, visit playpiper.com. Go to playpiper.com today to learn more. As a school leader, time is your greatest resource, and there is a real sense of urgency when it comes to getting students what they need right now. That's why I love IXL's Universal Screener. In 20 minutes or less, you can identify students in need of intervention. And IXL's Learning Adaptive platform makes differentiating instruction easy. As students learn, IXL adjusts to the right level of difficulty for each individual student. Get started today at ixl.com/leaders. That's ixl.com/leaders. All right, and we're back with Brandi Kelly, and we're here. We were talking about her book, Lead with Hope. We now want to talk about her hope cycle because it's something that we need in abundance when it comes to education. So I
Yeah.
know as you've, taken on this mantle of edupreneurship, and you're getting clearer and clearer on how you serve, educators. Tell us about the hope cycle.
Yeah. So the hope cycle is the way that we implement my hope system. And it's through just practices of getting clear on who we are. That's that assessment piece that helps us to develop self-awareness and self-efficacy. And then we focus. There's a quote. It says, it talks about watch your thoughts because they become your words and your actions and your habits, your character and your destiny. We've got to narrow in on our thoughts. That's where everything starts. I just read a book by Caroline Leaf, Dr. Caroline Leaf. She's a neuroscientist, and
Mm,
she wrote a book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And she talks about this idea of looking at your thoughts because they are going to shape your habits. And so focusing in on that and really refining, putting tools and systems and practices, processes into place to help you to have a more positive outlook on life, that mindset piece. I think your mindset affects your habits. So assess and vision the life you want to lead,
mm,
focus in on your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and then you are going to create goals. We call in schools, we call this like a school improvement plan. I
mhm,
believe we need a self-improvement plan.
mhm,
Crafting that life that you want to lead and then putting those goals into action, envisioning the life you want to lead, and then measuring it. How are you doing? Having an accountability partner, somebody that's going to hold you accountable for doing what you say you're going to do. a coach is a good person to do this for you. If you don't have a coach, consider maybe your colleague at school, somebody that will be honest with you and hold you accountable on the goals that you set for yourself as you're measuring it. And then you got to put it in practice. Hope without action is just wishful thinking. So you have to put these goals into action and then look at how you're doing and align and realign. And it's a cyclical process. It's just like the school improvement process. It is a continuous cycle of improvement where you're refining what you're doing against your vision and your values and making sure that it stays consistent.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add to that too, I think when you start a cycle of continuous improvement, it's okay to be concerned or a little disappointed with the current reality, right? Because there's a tool I use with clients, and I had them working through some stuff that juxtapose the current reality with the ideal future. And somebody commented in our digital community, like, "Oh, I'm doing it wrong. I'm so upset with the score," and da da da. But I said, actually, you know what? You're experiencing success right now. Let me reframe it for you, because the majority of your peers don't even have the awareness that a gap exists between what's happening on a day-to-day basis and what they want to happen, right? They might think it here and there, but it's just a thought. And something I've learned working with leaders for the last decade is, if you don't get those ideas or concerns or whatever from your head onto paper, it doesn't actually like really exist. You can't do anything about it. It's just like it's just squiggly or something. You can't quite grab it. But
Yeah.
once you write it down and you experience that, oh, this kind of stings. I say that family is most important to me. And in current reality, like, I'm absent, I'm working too late, whatever, I've missed too many events. Well, if that's true, now we can do something about it. Now we've started the discussion. So I appreciate, you sharing that. It's a continuous process. It's not,
It is.
that you don't just arrive, and nobody comes out of it perfect.
No, and just the fact that people invest in themselves in coaching, they're already ahead of their peers in so many
Oh yeah.
ways. And then you take that another step and you assess, you get clear on who you are and what you want out of life. That's that assess and vision piece of my cycle.
Mhm.
I think that is a game changer because, as you said earlier, so many people go through life on autopilot. They're just going through the motion. They're not necessarily looking at who they are and what they want out of life and then really focusing in on the thoughts and the words and the actions they're taking to
Mm.
create the life that they want to lead. And if you're not doing that, you're never going to get to the destination you want to get to. Like you said, using the example of family is my number one priority, but
Mhm.
you don't do anything to change the reality to meet the goal, it's never going to happen. So I think
Yeah.
becoming is the goal here. It's progress over perfection. And it's just taking these steps and knowing that it's going to be repeated over and over again, but you're moving in the right direction and you're becoming the person you want to be.
Right on. And with this cycle, when you're working with leaders, is it a multi-week sort of program,
Yeah.
cohort group? Like, what does
Yeah.
that look like?
I do a leadership coaching cohort and it's 6 weeks and we meet once a week for 6 weeks. We go through this cycle and I'm not there yet, Danny, but my vision is to create a community where the individuals, once they get done with this cohort, can join the membership community and just stay connected with the resources and their colleagues that they've met because the coaching, there's a lot of goodness that's going to come out of that coaching. But I also believe that network of like minded people, the people that are in the trenches doing the work, there's so much goodness that can come from just consistently collaborating with people outside of your organization, outside of your school
Yeah.
district. Sometimes it helps us to get the perspective that we need.
Yeah. Well, I think, what I've learned working with people all over the world They see that maybe we're not so different after all. So that's a big epiphany and helpful. And then they also see real creative solutions to sort of common challenges that we face. And
Yeah.
when you're within a system, there is the fishbowl mentality, whether you want it to be there or not, or the way we always do things around here. And
Yeah.
unless you connect and make an effort, right, to connect with people from outside of that, then you never get exposed to these really interesting and creative and often, more effective ways of approaching the work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, get
You
an
said
outside
it.
perspective.
Absolutely. You said it earlier. You said, something along the lines of the little things or the big things or the simple things are
Mhm.
the ones that are the most important. And I think sometimes whenever you are engaging with coaching relationships, you start putting practices into place that because you're stuck, because you're overwhelmed or you're stressed and you're not operating out of the prefrontal cortex, you're in the downstairs brain instead of the upstairs brain. It's hard to find those solutions. And something very simple that I started doing whenever I was feeling overwhelmed in that leadership role several years ago was just setting an intention every day, starting the
Mm.
day with, like you said, writing it down. I set an intention, I wrote it down, and I did some mindfulness before I started my day. And it put me in a better frame of mind. Whenever I started my day with emails, instead of setting an intention and mindfulness, it completely changed the trajectory of my day. And it's simple things like that that you can put into practice that helps you to align or realign your leadership to go in the direction you want to go.
So, Brandy, if you could put one message on all school marquees for a single day, what would your message be?
Yeah. You gave me this question ahead of this show, and I have really thought about this a lot. But here's what I've came up with. Share your story, spark hope, and change the world.
Love it. And if you were building your dream school and you didn't have any sort of limitations in regards to resources, your only
Yep.
constraint was your ability to imagine, what would be the three guiding principles of your dream school?
The three guiding principles of my dream school would be number one, and most important, every voice matters. Every
Mm.
student, every teacher, every staff member, I want them to feel seen and heard, and I want them to feel like they are valued. The second one, I want to focus on strengths driven growth, not necessarily the performance, the typical report card grades, but I want to celebrate the unique gifts and talents that everybody brings to the table and focus on mastery, helping people become, just getting better each day, progress over perfection. And then the third one would be bring out the best in everybody, lift each other up. I want people to do this through collaboration, through encouragement, and most importantly, through hope.
Great. Well, we covered a lot of ground in today's show. Of everything we discussed, what's the one thing you want a ruckus maker to remember?
I want our ruckus makers to remember that you matter, that your story matters, and that there is greatness inside of you. So go shine your light in this world bright.
Hey, ruckus makers, thanks again for pressing play. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. And before you go, if today's episode shifted something in you so that you want to do school different, or maybe you have a new idea about how to reimagine education on your campus, then check out My Principal Coach. It's your AI-powered leadership mentor. It's trained on 10 years of mastermind and private coaching experience that I've had. It's like having a world-class Ruckus Maker mentor in your pocket 24/7. You can start your free 7-day trial at myprincipalcoach.com.